and Shez. Talks with T and Shez.
Hello and good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Limitless Talks with.
Okay, who am I? I'm T, and
I'm Shez. Guys, we hope you've had a fantastic week so far, and it's Thursday lunchtime, that time again when we come together and we have a Limitless Talk.
Yes.
Again, we don't often say this, and I don't always say it every single week, but what we are doing today and what we do every single time we come on is we're just sharing our heart. We're sharing our thoughts and our feelings towards a situation, a topic, or of anything. But our predominant message that we really want to get across to all our listeners is that you can live that limitless life.
Yes, definitely.
We're going to say that the experiences that we share are unique to us, but not unique to us. But we're often sharing things which are from our personal experiences and our personal focal points. We know that yourselves, you may have had other experiences and different situations may have occurred, which may create a different thought pattern in you. And we encourage that if you do have other thought patterns, put it in the chat. So we can hear about that too. So it's something that we can also explore and bring into the conversation. Also, please feel welcome to contact us in the DMs separately, just to kind of get your point across, or even you could come on as well. So we'd love it if some of you would like to just come on and join us on one of our conversations one day.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, because it always helps when we have other people on, just to kind of give a different point of view to the ones that myself and T might have. Yeah. So before we get into our conversation for today, we're still on the topic of keeping love alive, but because we recognize, guys, it is a necessary conversation. If you did know some of the conversations I've been in, woo!
Yeah,
keeping love alive. We're not just talking about keeping love alive with a significant other in itself, because some of you who are watching may not be married and may not be in a relationship at the moment. However, I believe majority of the people are in some kind of relationship. Whether it's been a friendship, where it's a parental one, where it's a sibling one, where it's an auntie, a cousin, or what. We have to relate to others, and guess what? It's important that we do so in love. So whatever type of relationship that you are encountering, guys, this is a relevant conversation. And in preparation for those people who are seeking a marital relationship, this conversation is also good for that too. If you're a person who is already in a marital relationship, guys, it's always good to make notes. I'm constantly in a life learning situation when it comes to my marriage, and I encourage others to have the same kind of mindsets too. I had it before I was married, and I'm having it still, and it does not stop. But before we go into any deepness of that conversation, any deeper with that, T, you want to just give a little bit of an outline on Limitless as an organization, just for those people who are watching for the first time?
Okay, we are Limitless, as you guys know, and we are here to, I think our main focus is to empower, equip, and enable. And so I know there are other women's groups out there that does the same thing in a different way. And that's really, really good, because, unity is so important to what we're doing. Understanding what women need, what they need to survive, to go through stuff. And as Sheryl said earlier, we are bringing our own personal experiences to this situation, to equipping you, to enabling you, and to allow you to also empower you. We're bringing ourselves into the situation to know, for you to understand that actually we have been there. We've been in the situations when you felt like, actually, I don't feel like doing it. And we've needed restoration. We've needed somebody to understand us. We've needed, oh, my computer's moving. We've needed somebody to empower us. We needed somebody to talk to so we could become more focused again. We've needed somebody to put confidence in to help us through the situation. So Limitless is about that, getting you empowered, getting you to embrace who you are, getting you to find yourself. You may think, okay, I've found quite a bit of myself, but let me, as Sheryl said earlier, Shez said earlier, you never stop learning. This is one of the key things we've got to understand, is we never stop learning, guys. We never stop learning. So if we're open to learn, we will always learn something new as we go through our journey. So we're here to empower you, enable you, equip you, get you on the right path, get you to think differently. And our talks are geared towards that. Our talks are geared towards conversations of that probably some people wouldn't have, or we'll say things that we wouldn't say, that other people wouldn't say. Do you know what I mean? We'll have people on the show. Guys, as Sheryl said earlier, if you want to come on the show, by all means, let us know. Like, share, and subscribe. Subscribe to our YouTube. Subscribe to our website as well. I know that somebody asked me the other day about t-shirts. We will get them. We have got available t-shirts. We just have to check the stock and see what sizes we've got there for you. But we've got available stuff for you if you need them. So guys, we love you and we love your input. That is another thing that we love the most, is when you literally actually talk to us. Now, we know that many of you are back at work now. So when we started this in the COVID time, we would get loads and loads and loads and loads of comments because people were at home. But we do ask that you do still make comments, even when you come back to watch it. Why? Because we value your points of view. We do go back and have a look and have a little read of what's been said. So guys, we love you loads and we thank you all for being with us today. Please share with those around you. We have a phenomenal subject up for you today, and we really want you to be part of the conversation. So guys, listen to me. Just click on the conversation, have a chat, let us know. Sheryl, it's nice to see you. Sheryl Greenwood, it's good to see you. Not Sheryl.
It's nice to see you.
Sheryl, oh God. So we're looking at today. What are we looking at? Shez, we're looking. I know what we're gonna talk about.
Wow. To be honest, even as I was just reading this, and just while the music was playing, my mind was just going all over the place because I just had all the thoughts in mind. But it's literally be a team. So keeping love alive.
Yeah.
Be a team.
Yeah.
And I just thought there's so much we can go into. I mean, scriptures after scriptures talk about teamwork and being working together and being united and stuff like that. But I want to kind of break it down and just kind of really kind of focus in terms of being a team player. Let's just do it, because we may want to personalize this. Some of you may be watching it as a couple, you might watch it together, but some of you might be watching it by yourself. And are you a team player? Are you somebody who, if there is a working environment and you go into a working environment, are you somebody who can work with others? Are you somebody who can recognize the strengths in others and also recognize and know your own strengths and adhere to that, whilst also stepping out of your comfort zone and assisting or doing other things which you wouldn't normally do, but because needs must, you just literally roll up the sleeves and get involved. And I'm asking that question because reality is that's what marriage is like. It really is. I mean, and any kind of relationship, it's like that. You literally each day you do not know what's really going to come along, because you might start a day and you kind of have these action plans for your day. You might not have written down. Some of you might be really kind of good at writing down and making a list and really planning out. Some of you might be similar to myself, who would lie in bed and I literally think, okay, today I want to do A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and I'm going to accomplish it by blah, 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 blah. And, you know, you have all those things in your head to do. However, when you are in a team, sometimes things aren't going to always go your way. It's just as simple as that. Sometimes you need to communicate with your team members. I have this plan for today. What was your plan looking like? Okay, let's see what's going to be the reality of our day and how we can make it work so you can achieve what you need to achieve and I can achieve what I need to achieve. And the bigger your household is the more people you have to speak to on those levels. Yeah. But we're still focused on keeping love alive. So let's just home in terms of those close bonds and close relationships. Are you able to be a team player? What do you think on that, T?
Well, before I say anything on that, hi, Apostle Jackie, centered around purpose. She says, hi, ladies. So we say hi back. Yeah, love you loads. Pastor Jack, if you want to, Apostle Jackie, if you want to come up at any point, let me know. If you've got anything you want to share with us, we'd be really grateful to have you on. So what was the last thing you said, Shez?
Are you a team player?
Actually, I would say I've learnt to become a team player. So I would say that I was very much a person that was very individual. And I don't see anything wrong with being individual. However, I was very, very individual. So I always thought I had to do everything myself. Do you know what I mean? It's not going to be, I don't think I was a control freak, but most people probably put that in as a controlling person, but I didn't think I was a controlling person. But what I did think was that I can't hand it over to you because I don't know if you can do it as well as me. So that probably could line up with perfectionism, whatever. But over the years, I've literally learned to let go. Right? Teamwork. One of the things I say when I go into schools is teamwork makes the dream work. Yeah, it makes the dream work. So if you're working on your own, and what we've got this thing that we do in schools, and it's like they've got to build a tower. So we give them you must know the tower building. So we give them like paper, scissors, we give them like a toilet roll holder, tape, different little things we give them. And one of the things I give them is I learned this from a friend. I put spaghetti. What can you do with spaghetti? Come on.
Have you done it with spaghetti and marshmallows?
At the end.
Spaghetti and marshmallows is brilliant.
Yeah. So literally we give them stuff and they've got to work as a team. One of the things we used to do on on a couple of my sessions we did where we gave one person 5 minutes and the next person 5 or a few minutes, whatever, to do the teamwork. And you could see the ones who were team players and the ones who were individualistic. And the object was that at the end of it, we would say, so how do you think you could have done better? Because some of them would have done it, but it would have just dropped down at the end. And it's two teams against each other. And one of the things I realized earlier on, I would say it would be probably about 20 to 15 years ago, I learned that, you know, you've got to work with others. Probably before that, I was learning on a learning process. So I don't really, I think it's essential to work as teams. I think it's essential to be united. I think it's essential because if you actually think about it, the more united we are, as soon as okay, let me think. You know, my mind's going like 10 to the dozen right now. I can hear it. Can you hear it? You know, those conversations that we have on the phone. like racing. If you think of it, when you look at Parliament and you look at the minute there's a divide, what happens? Everything breaks down, right? And so if you're in a household and you're not sticking together, you're not doing this together, you think you're the only person that can do anything. So you're omnipresent and doing everything and nobody's not doing anything. You're actually probably the instigator of a lot of division in your household. So what you have to look at is, how do you pursue having teamwork in your home and having it make a difference in your household? Being a team is essential, not only for self-development, but also for us keeping the relationship together. If you have two individuals functioning as two individuals, that is not a couple. That can't be an effective couple. I don't know if you've ever watched this show. I can't remember what it's called. And it's like they're in the sky. They go from they have to. The woman says to them, "Are you still an effective team?" And they would reply, "Yes, we are." But the guy who she was married to started to have a memory of something that happened in his past, because what it was, they looked like, I think they were brainwashing the people so that they could do what they're doing. And he started thinking differently. And as he started thinking differently, he was like, I remember I used to, you probably know what I'm talking about.
I know the film now. Yeah.
And so the young lady was really trying to say that they were still a team, but they weren't, because there was two different thought patterns going on. He wanted to find something that he could remember in his mind and go for that. And so in the end, it all messed up. So if you don't act as a team, things mess up. If you don't perform as a team, not just act, perform as a team, you will become ineffective. And I think it's really important that we kind of catch the vision on that. And that's with anything. That's not just with a marital relationship. That's with your relationship with your children. Do you know, some people, we need to have family meetings with our children. We used to have family meetings with our boys when they were here. And I remember Isha being on not so long ago, and she was talking about the fact that they still have family meetings. It made me think, oh gosh, we're going to have to do some online. Do you understand what I mean? We're going to have to do some online for us. And there were different things that cause division, but we have to, that cause you not to be a team. But then you have to become that bigger person and be that person that's able to resolve things as well. Do you know what I mean? Because
and I suppose it is going back to even just looking at what a team is and some of the essential points of being part of a team. Essential points is going to be trust and loyalty.
That's right.
That's going to be essential, because as you mentioned, that sometimes, you know, when things are going on, you had a tendency to want to just do it. But reality is, because you didn't trust that somebody else could do it the way you wanted it done, or the way you felt it should have been done. So in terms of, it's about you trusting the other person, but also you being loyal to the vision, to what you are actually working on. And in the context of a marital relationship, your main focus is actually staying together, it's staying in partnership. So in terms of doing that with each other, there's a lot of things which keeping love alive is key to that. It's absolutely key to that, because you have to touch base, you have to communicate. You can't be part of a team and you don't talk to each other. You know, as a team member, you have to check in. How are you doing? Oh, actually, what are you doing with that? How's work going? Did it check in? Because even with this team of, you know, work in a working team, a lot of times you spend a lot of time together in the day. If those people who work 9 to 5, you're spending so much hours with other people in that working team. So in a sense, you create a bond there, which you don't always get even with your own partners at home. Purely because you do not have that same level of relationship. Because oftentimes when you're working in a team as well at work, you're both working, you're working on something that if you've chosen to work there, there's got to be an element of passion in that area.
Yeah.
So when it comes to the home life now, you need to work on keeping that passion there for your marriage, even with everything else. So the management is the home. So you want to be, you're both in a sense investing, whether it's financially and physically, in terms of keeping it clean, in terms of keeping the house itself, the structure where you live, where you put your head, making sure you've got a safe place then. Then you've got the other part of element of it, is the hospitality part of it, which is making sure that you're fed and the clothes are clean and everything like that. And the general keep making sure that, you're pleasant to each other. That's hospitality. You want to be hospitable to one another. Then you've also got the other part of it as well, because you want to make sure the fun element is there. You want to make sure that you're able to do activities with one another. So you are engaging on all the different areas which we all need.
Yeah.
You also want to make sure you've got the downtime, so you can then cater to the physical touch, the quality time, the gifts, the word of affirmation, and all those kind of things which we do need to feel loved. So there's so many different elements in that, but we've got to be mindful that whatever that we are doing, that when you're working as part of that team, that you're constantly, like you said, in terms of that film, I can't remember what it was called, but I do remember it. I think it was something on the same lines as The Island. But yeah, in terms of being part of that team, there's got to be that checking in, but it's also, you also want to check in and making sure that some of the stuff that you're picking up in your everyday life, like the morals, the ethics that you might have, the understanding of certain situations, because whatever we do, it forms our opinions, and it can even change our opinions. We have some core values which are within us, but our external experiences can affect our core. It can affect our core values, which then, if it affects my core value and I've not then communicated that to my husband, for example, then something comes up and he's like, what are you saying? That's alien to me, because I just understand that. Wait a minute, where's this come from? Because we've not had the check-in to understand that, oh, actually, it was from my experience that I had with this person or with that situation. And then on top of that, guys, if you want to add, which should be at the center, the church element to it, depending on your roles within the church and whatever you're doing that, all of that, there's so many things which affects the love and our teamwork within that love relationship. But even if you look in scripture, it says, and it tells in Ecclesiastes 4 verse 9, it says, it talks about, can two people work together if they don't agree? There's lots of things about keeping good company. In Proverbs 18 verse 22, it talks about, having those close relationships, and you basically know by the people that you're keeping close with in terms of your team, what types of teams are you investing in. There's other things about literally how things can be spoiled just by allowing something to come in, which is like an imposter in a relationship. And that's so easily done. So, what are we doing to then make sure that we counteract it? It's tough. It's hard because it can be so fleeting. It's so fleeting. It's momentary. It's just like, oh my gosh, one moment everything's absolutely fine, and then I could watch something on TV and then I'm annoyed with my husband.
And this is what you've got to understand, and that's why one of the key pointers that you just said is check-in. Now, me and my husband have a particular way of dealing with each other, and we actually, when we kind of, if we haven't checked in for a while, and when I say a while, I mean a week. It's very rarely longer than, if it goes longer than that, we're gonna have serious issues. Because we're very much a communicative couple. So when we check in with each other, but if we're not checking in with each other, we can actually see, we need to do a check-in. So I know there are those couples out there that probably don't function that way, and you might you might be dissatisfied, or you might be well satisfied with the way it is. But there are scriptures that kind of that actually bring us. I just had a scripture here. In Acts chapter 4, verse 32, it says, all the believers were one in heart and mind. So there's this thing that needs to take place, that we're one in our heart and in our mind with each other. You can't know what a person's thinking unless you're one with them. Do you know what I mean? No one claimed that any of their possessions, this is a New International Version, were their own, but they shared everything they had. So I'm bringing that into keeping love alive. Sharing with your partner, or sharing with your children, or sharing with your church sister, or your church brother, is so essential to keep you as an individual, or me as an individual, very much in tune with what's going on. When we're in tune with what's going on, guess what? We actually love easier. Do you know what I mean? We actually love more fluidly. The Bible says, and we walk in the spirit of faith and not fear. So the Bible says that the perfect love casts out fear. So what did I say at the very beginning? I said that my problem was that I didn't think anybody could do it like me. Okay, let me use Limitless as a big example, because Shez knows the journey of Limitless. It took me, we spoke about 18 years ago, innit? I think it was about 18, 19, probably a little bit shorter than that, probably 17 years ago, only a year difference. But we spoke, and it took the whole of my being to tell Shez what my vision was. And the reason why it took that was because I'd come across so much mistrust, and people that I had spoken to, I would speak something that I was doing and they would take it away. So there are different elements as to why we function the way we function. So I functioned like that mainly because I didn't really trust anybody. And I feared the people around me because of the things that had happened in my life. So for us to keep love alive, we have to start to heal, and we have to start healing somewhere. Right. So how do we heal in that place? Actually, start trusting your partner, start trusting your children, start in your home. Do you know what I mean? If you're like thinking, I can't tell him this, or I can't tell her this, think, actually, probably I need to think about the way I'm going to tell them. And if I tell them in a particular way, I may get a different reaction to what I've got before. There's a lot of things that we have to do personally to keep love alive around us. We personally have to take the reins. We have to take responsibility for our actions. We have to also look into our past and say, well, what influenced me? What in my childhood, or in my teens, or in whatever arena made me feel that I can't trust and I can't believe. And this is one of the things that is so important for us to begin to understand. It starts with us.
Absolutely. And that's why I even started with, are you a team player? Because what you're saying, what you're basically saying in a nutshell, is we have to take the barriers down. We have to be vulnerable. And my husband is the first guy I said I love you to. I remember I used to say, the person I fall in love with is the person I'm going to marry. And so, you know, so even the time when I said, you know, I love you, he had told me months before he loved me. And I was like, okay.
Thank you.
I would describe myself as, I'm a nice person, and you know, I'm going to be friendly with everybody. But there was a part of me which was so guarded.
Come on.
So guarded. It was hard for anybody to get through. And I am still, you know, I'm a somewhat guarded person as a whole, even though I'm friendly and I embrace everybody. But to get to the heart of me to get to the heart of who I am. Literally, when I told Lloyd I loved him, I literally felt like I was broken open and vulnerable. It was scary, absolutely scary. But I had to trust my heart with him. And I actually said, look, I've given you my heart.
Yeah.
It's delicate. Look after it. I remember saying that to him because I just thought, like, even down to the point where when I said I love you, and he was like, what? Because he was shocked. He said it on the phone first. And then I told myself, even some time before, if he says I love you, I'll say it back, but I'm not going to say it unless he says it in that context.
Yeah.
So, and he had told me before, but it was like waiting for that time. So when he said it, I love you. And I was like, love you too. And then he went, what? And I was on the phone. I was like, yeah, we feel it for. So, you're trying to backtrack to explain because he suddenly said it, and it was like it's out there. It's out there, and it's vulnerable. But then in that process of us kind of building up our team, because you don't just suddenly get married and you're a team.
No,
that build up is through your courtship. It's through your courtship. It's through your engagement. And even with us understanding before we got engaged, like I said, we did so much work before even getting engaged, just as kind of developing a friendship. So when we got engaged, we understood that the engagement is not the thinking period. It's not. And that's something that the world does. But if you look in the Bible, there's a reason when somebody was engaged, you basically were married already. It was you were betrothed to that person. The promises already made. Everything was set in motion. And then you had your wedding day, and that's the consummation period, and that's what's going on there. So that's why with Mary and Joseph, it was just like such a shame, because Joseph was thinking, I'm going to have to put my wife away, but I don't want to dishonor her, because already the engagement was already announced. So, they were already covenanted to each other in that sense. But at the same time, he's like, I ain't done nothing, I ain't touched you. And it was the angel that had to come to say, look, don't put away your wife.
Come on. Yeah.
She's your wife. Don't put away your wife. This is what she's saying to you is true. To confirm that word, and that struggle there. And we recognize the engagement period was just, again, we already came into alignment before then. So those of you who you're dating somebody and you're umming and ahhing and wondering, should I, shouldn't I, whatever like that, you don't just say, I do. You don't say yes to the ring. We've still umming and ahhing. There's a period before that you can go through, and I've mentioned this book before, 101 questions to ask before getting engaged. Go through those questions. It's great because it's got like very intimate questions. When I say intimate, I mean intimacy, because a lot of people just think intimate and automatically think sex, and it's not just about that. The relationship is not just about that. Intimacy is about you seeing into me and me leaving myself open for you to see. That's how we become a team. It's me being open. And that's why I said it's about vulnerability. It's about trust and loyalty. So the moment I've opened myself up for my husband to see who I was, then it's about him being loyal and protecting me in that motion. And in any kind of team that we're a part of, it's about us committing to have that level of intimacy. It's not the same deepness, guys. So some of you are getting too intimate with people you shouldn't be intimate with.
Hello.
Too much of you. No. Stay guarded where you need to be guarded. Let's use wisdom. In a marriage relationship, you go there with the intimacy. But the other stuff, no.
Come on.
Let's not trespass, because that's what the Bible says when we pray and we say, deliver us, forgive us of our trespasses. It's because we've gone into areas. Sometimes we leave ourselves open and it's not the right timing and it's not the right person. So before we even become part of a team, when you go for a job, you get a resume, so you get a job description. You then look at your qualities and you write down what you can give. So you fill out an application form. In order to fill out the application form, you have to know who you are, what is required, and all those other kind of stuff. And I always say, whenever in any kind of relationships, I always say, get to know yourself first. It's part of, what I do in business and what I've always done in education. And even when I've worked with young people in churches as well, I always focus on who am I?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because once you kind of understand who you are, you can then understand your limitations, because there are certain things which we create limitations with, but then you can also understand where you can create pockets or create an understanding of being limitless, because you know where you are. You can't step into that limitless mindset if you don't even understand who you are. So even in any kind of relationship, me as mummy with my children, there's certain conversations I'm having with my children, and I have to step back and say, guys, mummy needs, because I know I'm getting angry with myself, and I have to communicate that to my children to say, mummy needs 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And me communicating like that, my children are not seeing mummy going from 0 to 100, but instead they're seeing mummy is being able to be emotionally intelligent, to recognize that the mood that she's in is going to affect my children, the way I'm speaking. So I need to take a moment and pull away. And when we know ourselves, we identify ourselves, we can see and we can maneuver better with others, because it's not being secure. And I'm not saying know yourself to say, oh, I'm just this, I'm just that, and that's just me. No, I'm saying understanding your identity. And then we always, I've got the Bible in front of me, we always go back to the source, because this is what helps to be able to create a mindset where we can then relate relationally in a good way with others through the word. And there's lots of, positive speakers out there. But they often, with these positive speakers, have taken elements of the word and they've used it and packaged it differently. And call it something else. But guys, I'm telling you, the Bible has got so much in there in terms of being able to work relationally with others. There is, I know my foundations of even being able to come up with certain principles for my life, and then principles for my family, and principles for my marriage, and it's all biblically based because of that support that's there. So being part of a team, guys, being part of a team is understanding who you are, your strengths, but then it's also important that you understand the strengths of you and the weaknesses of your team members. And you're not doing that to abuse, to say, well, you can't do this, you're rubbish at that. No. That's just nasty. You don't do that. When you're at work, you don't look at other people and think, oh, they're rubbish at this. You start to realize, okay, so-and-so's absolutely fantastic with the administration part. We'll make sure that they're doing the admin stuff. So-and-so's very good with the front of house, so we'll put them at front of house. And you recognize the different strengths, and then you just make sure that everyone can operate in their strengths. And in areas of weaknesses, you then kind of maneuver things so you can actually help to maneuver, so you can create strengths. Me and husband, we are really opposite. Sometimes it frustrates me, I've got to be honest. But there's other times when I'm so grateful that we're opposite, because we wouldn't have a roof on our heads if it was just me alone. Because I'd be, I don't know if I've told this story, but when we got married, my husband deals with all the finances, because it's not a strength of mine. I'm good at not spending money, because I don't spend money. I'm just not a big spender. So I had a lot of savings. That wasn't a problem. But there were certain areas which I neglected. I was paying for 2 different car insurances, because I was very good at setting up direct debits. So I just set up direct debits. Everything was set up. Me not realizing that I was with one company and I was with another, because I set up a new one, but I failed to cancel the old one. So, it's just little things like that. When my husband is a fantastic steward when it comes to money, and in terms of the whole, he'll do like graphs, charts, and all this other kind of stuff, which is not my strength. But in terms of like the house and keeping the house together and making sure, that is a strength of mine. And there's other areas where we just kind of, there's a communication part, the hospitality part, I'm number one on. But there's other parts where he's absolutely fantastic on. And it's not me then trying to say, well, you should be.
Exactly.
So I recognize his strengths and I let him work in his strengths, and vice versa. And it's something that we've always got to constantly. And then if I've become strong in something that he's doing, it's about us maneuvering then to be able to
Yeah.
create a space where we can then, each of us is feeling like we are achieving and developing and growing, but we're doing it together.
Yeah.
I'm not saying this is always easy, guys, but I'm saying that if you can take that mindset of a team mindset into your love relationship, it helps, along with all the other things we've mentioned already, to keep love alive. Because some of the frustrations that we're having within our home settings, within our workplaces, within our family settings, is sometimes because we're not team players. What do you think, T?
Do you know what? I totally agree with every single thing you've said. You know, there are different categories and different strengths in each person, and there's different weaknesses in each person. So we have to kind of recognize that, you know, none of us, and this is one of my statements that I've always said for years, is omnipresent.
Yeah.
So, you know, guys, get a grip of yourself, you know, let's get a grip of ourselves, you know. At the end of the day, we may do a lot. And as females, the reality is there is a lot of things that we do, but we also need to appreciate the things that others do around us, you know. And one of the key factors I think is really essential to growth in this area is literally having goals, setting goals together, having parameters put in place if you need parameters. Do you know what I mean? Having certain things. We used to have family meetings with our boys, and we used to say, in this family meeting you can say anything, and none of us can decide that you're going to get a beating later. No, joking. You're going to get grounded or anything like that.
Tell the truth.
Back in my day,
Nancy, what you're saying is that what it was? Is that what it was?
When I was young, it was beaten, but when it was my children,
we was young. We didn't have no family meeting.
Please, we would. So in our family meeting, it was like you could say anything and you could critique anything you wanted to critique, and then we'd have a discussion about it. And it was actually very, very productive, because the children used to come with some. We'd be like this, like, you know, but we were ready for it.
I wasn't. I didn't know.
It was a stipulation that we made. We made it as a stipulation that it's a place. And so, there's so many different areas that we can literally deal with, because obviously we're dealing with couples, but we're also dealing with family, and we're dealing with friendships. And so one of the things you have to understand as a couple, if you haven't set that as a groundwork at the beginning, because honestly the key factor is the beginning of your groundwork. You may have to dig up stuff and start again in certain areas, and you may want to sit down with your wife or your husband and sit down and say, you know what, I've noticed that we could actually make some changes. Do you know what I mean? It's territory that you may not have been in before, but as we grow and as we change and as we progress in life, it is essential for us to look at those things and see, okay, what could we change? Do you know what I mean? Your husband may be a husband that just goes out because he can't be bothered to be in the house because there's no conversation. Maybe you're not a conversationalist. Maybe you are the conversationalist and he's not the conversationalist. But no matter what, you can't set the blame. I think I said this kind of earlier. We have to take responsibility. I think I'm focusing on responsibility here today. And Shez is focusing on other areas, you know what I mean? But we need to take responsibility and say, actually, for us to be able to, that's why we have the talks in it, because both of us have two different sort of perspectives on different things, and they meld together. You know what I mean? And they become, and it's extremely really good because they meld together, and they're information that people need. So, you know, one of the things I want you to understand is that if you feel that your relationship is not where you wanted it to be, you know, we all have a dream. We all have this little dream about what I want. Sometimes you're the one that needs to make the changes. Do you know what I mean? And literally have those conversations that you would never have. you know, me and my husband have some serious conversations. We sit down, and then we have some real humorous ones. We have some crazy ones in the house. Let me tell you, the other day, what was it that I said to him? I told him I'm going to tell everybody as well. So I told him I'm going to say it when I go live. So what's happened is we've got they've upgraded our Virgin, and so he said to me something about the Virgin that all the stuff that was saved, I can save it. He can separate it into everybody can have their name, and then there's a shared one. So what used to happen is every time I used to save something, I'd come back and it'd be deleted because he would have deleted it any. So anyway, he said, now you can save it in your own thing, and you can't accuse me of deleting it. So I said, that's not an accusation. That's a reality. It's a known fact that you used to delete it. And we were laughing our heads off about this deleting and not deleting and everything. And I said, I'm going to tell everybody that it's a known fact. There is no, like, you know, it's not an alleged thing. It's a fact. You know, we're like caught people in the house, you know, it's not alleged, it's real. That's what you did. And we were having a laugh about it. There are some things that you can just have fun about, but if you want to recreate your foundation, you know, you can do that. It's not impossible. It's never impossible to start looking at your relationship and actually being fulfilled, because the reality is you get married to get old with that person.
Yeah.
Do you want, when you get old, you don't know how to talk to your partner or whatever? And as children as well, young people, family, in your environments, your work environments and all that, you know, the Bible tells us to seek peace anyway. Do you know what I mean? To go for that peaceful solution. Do you know what I mean? And sometimes, yeah, we may be wrong in what we've done. I remember saying to you guys in one of my interviews that, you know, I was at the top of my voice in the very early years of our marriage. And he just looked at me and says, I ain't talking to you if you were going to talk like that. And that was the end of, I was like, hey, I came from high heaven down to earth, right? Because I want him to hear me. But sometimes that doesn't necessarily happen with everybody. You might find that your partners become silent. And you don't want that. So there are different things that we need to resolve, and we need to resolve them so that we can literally embrace and impact and set goals and have literal progression. Do you know what I mean? In our household structures, in our family structures, in what we're doing. The reality is, if you're able to and communicate in a way and break down the barriers that you've probably built up yourself, you know, it's fine. It's okay. It's nothing to be ashamed of. You're not the first, you won't be the last. Do you know what I mean? But what you can do is decide to resolve it, decide to change it, decide to be look at each other and think, actually, we need to be like-minded. We need to be sympathetic towards one another. We need to have more understanding in our relationship. We need to have more communication in our relationship. We need this, babes. Do you know what I mean? Honey, come on, let's go away for a weekend. Let's have some time together where we can talk. We can enjoy married life as well. And we can
need to give each other grace, time, and that's the thing. Because even with teams, if you think about it in the work capacity, you have your training days, you have your away days. You need to have, even if you've got a focus, you got things that need to be done, but there's times when you just need to play. There's and it's about making sure that, again, as a team, that you can both communicate that with one another. One of the key scriptures in terms of looking at the team, and when I was looking down for a while, I was looking for it. It's 1 Corinthians 12, when it talks about the body of Christ. And this
verse 12.
Verse 12.
Sorry, Ma, I just had it as well. I was going to say that.
Even when because we've all got different parts, and it says, and this is the contemporary English version, the body of Christ has many different parts, just as any other body does. Some of us are Jews and others are Gentiles. Some of us are slaves and others are free. But God's Spirit baptizes each of us and made us part of the body of Christ. Now we each drink from the same spirit. Our bodies don't have just one part, they have many parts. Suppose the foot says, I'm not a hand.
Come on.
And so I'm not part of the body. Wouldn't the foot still belong to the body? Or suppose the ear says, I'm not an ear, and so I'm not part of the body. Wouldn't the ear still belong to the body?
Come on.
And if our bodies were only an eye and could hear things, and if only an ear and could hear things and smell and couldn't smell things, but God puts all the parts of the body together in the way that he decided is best. And I'm going to stop there because, you know, reality, when you stand at that altar and you say, I do, and we then say, you know, we've committed our relationship to God. When we've come together, I'm talking about a Christian relationship. We have the premarital counseling. We've said, yes, this is the man. I've chosen this man. And, you know, now what God has put together, let no man put us under, let no man separate, let no man get involved. Because we've got to then make that decision to understand that we're in this. God knows best. And it's not for us to fight against each other. Yes, it might happen. You might have disagreements and things like that. But I encourage you, if you read the rest of the scripture, it talks about the significance of each part of the body. When me and my husband decided to get married, we decided to become that team. I might be part of other teams because I have my family, which I grew up with, which is a very strong team, which I'm going to always have that bond to. I might work in a workplace where I've got a certain team. I might be involved in a church where I'm part of that team. But there is something special and unique and divine about that marital relationship. And I really want to speak to the married people, because I know, even just looking through society, that the enemy is not ramping when it comes to our marriages. So we cannot take our eyes off the ball. We've got to be able to see things for what it is. When you are easily irritable about a situation, like T mentioned earlier, we need to take responsibility and start looking within ourselves and say, why am I getting irritated? What is something that I need to deal with within me? Because a lot of times we're often getting triggered by something and it's not necessarily what the other person does. What the other person does can help the situation. Let's be real. They can help it. They can cause a difference. But it comes to the point where we need to give grace. And we spoke many times about the fruit of the spirit, because we recognize it's there. In order for our team to work, we need to operate in the fruit. So we can then be fruitful in our relationship. That then our marital relationship does assist us in what we're doing with our children. It enhances all our other relationships. It shouldn't be the other way around, where our children enhance our marital relationship. So those people that say they want to get children so it can bring us both closer together. Guys, I'll tell you, right, it's going to happen. Divide and conquer. They don't mean to, but reality, they take up so much of your time. There's a natural inkling, as me as mommy, I'm talking from my perspective now, there's a natural inkling for me to literally be mother hen and mother my children and want to kind of cradle them, and sometimes nudge my husband out the way because of my heart for my children. But that's not what the Bible tells us. We are to cleave to our husbands. And I'm not even going to get into what the roles are and all those kind of stuff, because some of those stuff which people are arguing, you know, it's just not important for those people who are thinking about finding somebody and have got a big massive tick list of what they want in a man and this and this and that. Like, sometimes when I'm listening to certain things, I find it exhausting, because I'm, like you said, T, you got to take responsibility. Make sure you're that person that you're wanting that other person to be first. But
Yeah.
at the same time, is once you make that decision, and when you're in that marital relationship, you'll be surprised some of the things that actually don't mean nothing. And there's other things depending on the season you're in, because this is the reason why you have to do evaluations and you have to do check-ins, because in any kind of in life, you're going to go through different seasons. The Bible talks about it in Ecclesiastes. There's a time for everything. So depending on, you need to be able to identify the season you are in and operate accordingly. So you might have to do some adjustments within, like he said, do some adjustments, but always make sure that you have the focus on a team. We are a team.
Yeah.
Anything that I'm doing is teamwork.
Yeah.
And you can't operate as a team if you're thinking as an I, as a me. I'm not, my needs are not being met.
Yeah.
I, YOLO. You can't have the YOLO attitude in a marriage, guys. It doesn't work. It's not going to, if you're going into a relationship with a YOLO attitude, you're going to be on your own.
Really going to be low on your own.
You're going to be lonely. So it is hard work, because guess what? Nothing's comfortable. It's not comfortable having to get up in the morning and feel the coldness on your feet when you step out of the bed. It's not comfortable having to get up and, you know, put on clothes sometimes and go to work. And, you know, it's not always comfortable having to come home and to cook a meal. But, you know, some things are just not comfortable to do, but we do it because it's necessary. I need to come and cook so I can eat food, so I can be healthy. I need to go to work. I need to go and do certain things. There's certain things we just need to do. So let's get out of the mindset of how I feel about a situation and step up and operate in that limitless mentality, where we're not always going on with the barriers, but instead we're opening up ourselves to, we need to be able to push through, persevere to achieve. So, you know, we're talking here about healthy relationships, keeping love alive, and we just want to continually encourage you to just assess yourself. Look for those areas of weaknesses, just like you would in your workplaces. You look at vulnerabilities. So you look at areas of vulnerabilities within a workplace. I was in a meeting just 2 days ago, and it was lovely the way he said it. He was like, oh, this is what's going really great. This is fantastic. Now, these are some areas of vulnerability. And I thought, oh, that's a really good way of putting it. In our lives, we all have areas of vulnerability. We all have blind spots. So what we do, we look at those areas of vulnerability, and then we put things in place to scaffold them in order to build the structure in place to make those vulnerabilities strong.
I'm going to end with maybe 2 scriptures. Right, in Mark 3 verse 24 to 25, it says, if a kingdom is divided against itself, that kingdom cannot stand. And if a house is divided against itself, that house will not be able to stand. This is in the scriptures. It's saying how necessary it is that we are united together, that we stand together. And that means thinking the same way together. I was reading this morning, and the scripture was in Genesis 24. It talks about Isaac looking for his wife, and he wanted a wife that was of the same thought pattern as him. Right? That's what he wanted. That was his criteria in looking for a wife. And so we understand why that was, because if we are divided, if we don't have the same mindset. So you might say, you are falling in love, Guys, you ain't falling in love. Love happens when you're married, right? When you're married and you're able to stand the test of time, that's when you're in love, okay? Because you're able to look past the bad things or the good, whatever you want to call it. You're able to love past it, right? And the other scripture I'm gonna think unity, think strength, think togetherness. That's how you need to think, because a city that is divided against itself, it can't stand. So there's this thing that you've got to have in your marriage. Actually, I need to be united with my wife. I needed to be united with my husband. You know, I'm going to go to church instead because I can't be bothered to have this conversation. Well, you know what? Your prayers are going to go to nowhere, according to the scriptures. So in Matthew 12, verse 25 as well, Jesus actually, this is Jesus knowing the thoughts of these people that were around him. He says, knowing their thoughts, he said to them, every kingdom divided against itself is laid waste, and no city or house divided against itself will stand. Again, this is in Matthew 12 verses 25. So we get that in Matthew 3, and we go further on, and Jesus now reiterates this in Matthew 12. Do you know what I mean? Division does not allow you to build, but when you are united, you can build. So our goal as children of God should be to be united, not just with one another, because you might be saying, actually, I want to be united with this church and this whatever, and your marriage is divided, your relationships are divided in your home. Then the Bible tells us that if you must get your house in order before you start trying to get the church in order. So you're unbalanced straight off. So let's think about this and think about how, if you are struggling, how you can change things. Do you know what I mean? Or get a counselor. There's Christian counselors out there. We've named several on our platform before: Bishop Brooks, Bishop Melvin Brooks, Pastor Yvonne Brooks, even Minister Lloyd, Pastor Lloyd, and Sheryl do counselling as well. You do counselling, don't you?
Time that together. This is a program that we've got.
Myself and Apostle do stuff as well, but and then we've got in a different town that we know of, Bishop Maddox and First Lady Maddox. There are others that are out there. You might know somebody in your environment that you just need that little help. It's not an ashamed to do it. Don't be ashamed to own what's really going on in your life. But also, those of you who are being really successful, keep it going, mate. Keep it going. Keep the relationship going. Push for the best and help those who you can see may need a bit of help. Do you know what I mean? A little word of encouragement to somebody can help them to move to the next level in their relationship. Do you know what? Honestly, Shez, we might have to carry this conversation on next week. I'm going to see if we can get somebody on as well, somebody else on the show.
Yeah.
To literally, you know, have that conversation. We'll see what we can do between now and next Thursday. But guys, listen, we want you to pursue the goals that you have, but pursue them in togetherness. Start thinking of how much you can achieve if you are together, if you are united, if you are standing with those who you need the help from, if you compliment them rather than put them down. Do you know what I mean? Are they never going to be good enough? They're never going to be good enough. Stop all those things. Think about your language. Think about how you speak to somebody. If you want the best from them, speak wisely with them. You know, get the best by the way you speak, by the way you conduct yourself with a person. We were even going to go into that as well, conducting yourself as well. But you know what? We can literally go over some of these things next week and a little bit more deeper, because guys, in order for us as a kingdom to stand as a body of Christ, we have to literally start getting things together, because we can see the world system is changing. A lot of things are changing, and rather than sitting down fearing, stop being fearful, start thinking, actually, what are the strategies we can use? We can only use those strategies when we start thinking differently, and our thinking starts changing when we're in our household, not outside of our household. So when we start thinking different to where we live, then we can think differently when we come out of that environment as well. So guys, I want to encourage you today. Stand fast. Hey, I feel like preaching a sermon right now. Hey,
always.
yeah.
Oh my gosh, you know something, because even as we're talking, like you said, there's so much that keeps coming up. There's absolutely loads which is just coming to mind. Guys,
but we'll carry this on next week.
We'll carry it next week. Yeah, we'll carry.
So guys,
we
want to encourage you to make some changes this week. Make some changes this week.
This week, guys, your challenge has to be to assess where you are. Look at where you are. Know, are you a team player? So I'm going to be asking you, are you a team player? I want to say, actually, in this area, yes. In that area, no. I'm going to make some adjustments, and we'll just kind of look at some tools as well. Because I think
next week we will look at that.
It's a key factor. It is a key factor.
So, guys, we want to say thank you very much for watching with us today, and stay focused this week. Change some of the dimensions that you need to change. Come back on next week. We're going to try and look at a couple more strategies that you can use, and see if we can get somebody on. That'd be good if we can get somebody on next week, isn't it? Wouldn't it?
I don't know, guys.
Well, we're pretty good anyway. We're on. Go crazy. Anyway, guys, have a blessed week. We love you loads. Like, share, subscribe, share with everybody that you can share with. These are good conversations that you need people to be part of, and enjoy the rest of your week. We'll see you next week, as long as it's the will of God, which I believe it is. Have a blessed week. Love you all. Bye.
Bye.
Talks with T and Shez.